Get out the insurance cards, get out the copays. The office is open, my friends. Brought to you by
Yo, everybody, it's
drroto.com.
Heat-tastic. So let's get to it.
Bring the bang!
What's up, everybody? It's Heat Override, and I'm ready to bring the pain for you and Dr. Roto this week. Ooh, yeah, on another Heat-tastic Father's Day review. Ooh, yeah. Usman versus Buckley. Man, you know we're going to do it. We're going to bring the pain to the whole card. UFC Atlanta. Break it down. Well, much to break down. After we had some pretty cool, insane, and pretty fast and intense fights, especially after Wellmaker waxed Mutino. That was it. And then it was like decision. What just happened? Decision. We'll get to that. What just happened? Bellotto again. Whatever, dude. At the end of this podcast, I will be doing an IDP special. Since all of my tiers hit, I wanted to take one player from each tier. I actually just picked the second level, which I call the next level. And so those players, I took one player each, a player that I feel that's going to do about the same. So you have to figure out who that is. I'll explain that, explain my process and my modules and see what they came up with. And also, I will have two players that look like they're going to have a bright future, a big season. One, easily, you can predict that. And then the other guy, you could see why it would happen, because after I talk about it, it's just going to be bad. So anyway, let's get to it. Let's review the picks yesterday. So first pick that we had there is I did a Jamie Lynn Horth versus Vanessa Donopoulos, and I picked Horth, got the win right off. I ended up going Anglosa, although I had a lot of Phil Rowe for DFS, so DFS-wise, the night started out great, right? So I did pick Losa, though, on my pick, so that is a loss for me. I picked Ricky Simon. I don't know what happened, but practically Ricky Simon said he didn't really need to do much to beat Smotherman. So what you saw is what happened. And yeah, so I did have, of course, all my money lines hit on the wins for those, and also the distances on that as well, too. However, a lot of the finishes after we get past Wellmaker, like I said, just didn't happen. So that was unfortunate. But that's where, the fights just kind of went stale, and DFS staled out, but it made everything even. I will explain all that in detail soon. So I picked Simon, got the win. Okay, went with Jose Ocha over Durden, got the win. Went with Wellmaker over Chris Mutino, got the win. So then we got Chiesa, got the win over McGee. And then there we go, Paul Craig versus Rodolfo Bellotto. Now, I had Bellotto in one lineup. I had Craig in a few lineups because he was super cheap, and I thought that this could go the distance. Instead, what we got was a zany ending to the first round and then a no contest. So there's people on the internet that are saying that Bellotto just flopped and that this was all act. It was all acting going on, acting like where he didn't know where he was. He was trying to wrap up the ref, trying to show how lethal that little kick that came up. Didn't seem like it hit. It was close. I mean, it did, but at the same time, I've been hit with harder than that. But he did give himself up, and I don't know who to blame there. Did the ref ask him to get up, and then the guy strike him? So it's a dirty move on Paul Craig's part, which I thought Paul Craig was actually comfortable in that fight. I was pretty sure that if that fight went the distance, that Paul Craig was going to win, and that my DFS lineups would have scored more than 12 points for both these fighters. Oh, God. Oh, well. It happens. So, of course, that eliminated out of my 8 lineups. Those 2 dudes eliminated 3. Well, at least they got points. But, yeah, that's we could add more. Anyway, nobody wins. It's a tie. So, that match has been so horrible with it screwing me over on DFS weeks ago, and then now coming back. All I gotta do is Bellotto. I am not a fan of yours next time, unless you got some chump Unless you got, like, if you're fighting Chris Mutino, which I know you're not, at the same time, I just can't. I can't. You're supposed to be professional, man. And I don't know if that was a flop, and I'm not going to say it's a flop because anything can happen in a fight. But clearly, this was a situation that needs to be looked at a little more, and that's all I'm going to give it to now. Okay, we had Umar Sly versus Alonzo Menefield. I thought Sai fought this fight extremely safe. He kept punching Menefield and jumping out, punching Menefield, jumping out, punching. And honestly, I don't agree with I guess overall, if I go back and look at it again, I could see Menefield and make an argument that he did win that fight. But I didn't think he did enough damage to Sai to actually do anything to win that fight. And I don't think, all to me on Sai's part was Sai just jumping around, sticking him and jumping out so he couldn't get him and using his reach, which he had. It just turned into a really strange fight. And this is where it just got really strange. You got the Chiesa and Court McGee, and then you're just like, okay, this is getting, okay, whatever. Let's get to the next one. It gets weird. You got no contest. Now we're jumping around, nothing. Okay, let's get to what's supposed to be a knockout. We're getting to the main card now. We got Mansur Abdul Malik versus Cody Brundage. And, of course, I had some Brundage. I had a lot of Malik. So, of course, I got points on all that stuff. And I had Malik. So that's a win for me. And Brundage, though, I mean, he hung in there. He hung in there exactly the way the freckled salamander said, or whatever he calls himself, Jake. You know, that's I definitely got to give props to that. Your boy did hang in there and did not get knocked out. And again, Malik is just passive at times. But again, this is just where this whole card went. It would start out really cool, really exciting a little bit, getting some finishes, making some money. And then it just went 50-50 the rest of the way. Cody Garbrandt versus Aoni Barcelos. And I should have stuck with Aoni Barcelos. But I went Garbrandt. I actually thought Garbrandt did a lot. But then it seemed like he tired out. And then I saw Barcelos kind of really looking strong at the end, being able to grapple him, do what he wants. I felt that the way he came on strong, that is, at the end, and that's Barcelos, is the reason he won that fight. And I'll give him that. And that's a loss for me. But Edmund Shabazian versus Andre Prozowski, I mean, I thought, how is there not a finish in this? And I got to say this, too. Shabazian was rocking, dude. And it just never, it was like, hold up, no finish. I'm like, come on. Like, just finish, rush in. Don't be scared. Go in. Go pop, and that's what you do. Well, then we got Rose Namajunas versus Miranda Maverick, which I thought was a really good fight. I did feel that Rose did have the slight advantage, but I thought Miranda was close. I thought Miranda needed to win that last round and win it convincingly, and she could have won that decision. Of course, it went the distance. Whole fight changed. That moment when everybody was like, oh, it's a knockout. But Maverick rolled her ankle, I'm pretty sure. I haven't really did any research into that. I've kind of been really busy. Father's Day, kind of went out for lunch, everything. And my wife's been sitting here having to do a bunch of other stuff because, you know, there's just things going on. So we kind of came back, and it's just been cool. It's been a great Father's Day overall. So it's one of the things where I was like, all right, let's get the podcast done so we can spend the night, maybe play some video games, and, you know, get a little time out. But, of course, I'm going to end up writing for next week. I'm going to Hill versus Roundtree. So, you know, that's how I already got to get that card started and everything like that. So, of course, I picked Rose, got the win there. But I really thought Maverick, and again, I recommended her for DFS, was great. Actually, the whole card became a whole DFS card because nobody got finished after that. After, you know, Wellmaker took out Mutino in a beautiful hook, right? So I picked Joaquin Buckley over Kamaru Usman, and I knew I should have went Usman, and Dan told me I should have went Usman, and Usman showed why he is an amazing fighter. He literally grappled boy down, held him down, and beat the shit out of him. Old classic stomp out, ragdolling. You ain't going nowhere. I'm the bigger man. I am Kamaru Usman, and I am the Nigerian Nightmare. Ooh, yeah. That was insane. 8-4-1 overall. Still made money off the money lines. So as you can see, DFS kind of went where everything was around 60 points. Everything was decision. The losers were getting near 60. The winners were getting near 60. Even Maverick, I said it, you can see Maverick get about 35 points, even in that decision. And that goes, she was getting some points in that last round. So that being said, she would have definitely got near the 35 points that I said that she should get. She got about 23, 25 on DraftKings, which still isn't bad. Still isn't bad. Like I said, she did good. But the way that card crashed and went, it just goes. But I'm happy that there wasn't, I'm not happy there wasn't many finishes because, again, we were winning money. That's what the Fight Club of Pain is all about, is about identifying what finishes can happen and how they can happen, and using the theory, fight tape, and numbers to see if it exists. If it exists, I say let's play it. And decisions always exist. As a fighter, I kind of myself get caught up in that, where like you could say like my previous fights about a few months ago when I started fighting this year. Of course, I did 3 tournaments in a matter of 5 weeks, and the 3 of those tournaments I fought five individuals, all of them being new except Robert, and I beat everybody. Actually, no, 6. So that being said, it's just one of those things that you get through when you do all this and you do all the fighting, and you kind of sometimes know. And that's what happened with a lot of these fights. Like Ricky Simon, he knew he didn't really have to do much to beat Cameron Smotherman. So, and that's why I said Cameron Smotherman is live for DFS play, because he was $8, I think, or whatever not. He was super cheap. And there was a lot of these guys that are super cheap. That's just weird things end up happening. So, that's why I'm kind of happy I just played late. I keep it to 8 lineups, a few double ups, so I take those lineups, I do the double ups on them, and I throw, of course, in the dollar if there's a dollar one, always a $3 on FanDuel and the $8 on FanDuel. So it was really nice. The pay lines were actually really low. I saw people winning contests with 375 points, and I'm sitting here in one lineup with 512 on this lineup and 360. This lineup scoring points now. So it was really crazy how it happened. But man, like I said, play small, stay relevant, and stay safe for next week. Hill versus Roundtree. And of course, 2 weeks from now, you're not going to get a lot of action from in the Subs Only Discord at Dr. Roto, because I will be at the Scott Fishbowl 15 in Buffalo doing a live draft for the Buffalo Bisons division. Hey, if you could go on to Scott Fishbowl, go to the Fantasy Cares link and donate. If you put in a note, just say, donated because Heat Override said to bring the pain. Bring the donation. Oh, yeah. Right? Because I don't think there's enough time for me to get my own code or everything like that and just go, I'm just going to end up going to this draft with my buddy, one of my longest friends ever, Dave, and just have a good time, have a few beers, try some of their beers, get ready for a drive back, have fun. My team's fighting in Buffalo. I would be fighting in Buffalo that day, but I am not. The champ rests. The champ's taking a fun day to go spend with his friend in another city trying to draft and just try to do the best for this cause, because Scott Fishbowl, they have so many things going on. Like Get Right Fantasy right now is running all these mock drafts for them, so that's really cool too. And they're, Scott went out and actually said, hey, if you talk about me, the Scott Fishbowl, you do a draft, my style, I will highlight, I will watch your reel. And that's really cool. So, and Scott's a really amazing guy. I was able to meet him last year. Thank him for allowing me to get in on the last day of Scott Fishbowl 14. And now that I'm in Scott Fishbowl 15 with a live draft, I got to say thank you to Scott and everybody else that has everything to do with that. Definitely donate to Fantasy Cares. They donate to places like Toys for Tots, et cetera, et cetera. They just donate, and they make everything. They make people's lives change, man. And we're just playing fantasy football, just trying to raise awareness for all sorts of, the causes that they support. So, yeah, get to fantasycare.org and Scott Fishbowl 15. Get ready for it. I'm ready to bring the pain. So let's get to it. We got the IDP. We got my rankings out on Dr. Roto. And we got my tiers out as well. I did disinclude one guy, Aiden Hutchinson, just because he's coming back from injury. There's a couple guys I rank low. Him, I'm kind of just playing it tentative right now, Aiden Hutchinson. So if you don't see him on my rankings, don't think I didn't give my boy some love. I just got to make sure he's right. And I know he is. I know he's out there, but before I do rankings, I gotta do what I gotta do. Right? So what I'm gonna highlight, of course, is 3 players, 1 defensive lineman, 1 linebacker, and 1 safety. Well, it is a safety, but 1 defensive back. That's how I do it. 3 tiers. And each of these players are on my next level, which of course is the pain bringers, the next level, and then the late busters. Late busters being guys you draft in the last round in an IDP league, of course. And so I wanted to show how it kind of goes. So I'm going to use a dynasty scoring format for a normal IDP, pretty tight, pretty strong. Doc actually devised this one. And so I wanted to use those points and then use my model and show how close to the model is and how the predictions. At the end, for each player, I will give a prediction for each one of these, whether it gets saves. Again, at the beginning of this episode, I did talk about that we were going to we have 1 player that's safe. We got 2 players that could possibly explode. One of them definitely should explode. Of course, all this being they play a 17-game full season, and they can accrue all of these points. So let's start out. Let's get to EJ Top Speed. Oh yeah, 30-year-old linebacker. Now, of course, 30. You're probably not going to want him in a dynasty or get him, but you could probably get him cheap, maybe a 5th or 6th round draft pick. And what you're going to get with him is solid, consistent play. For the past 2 years, he has had to deal with Zaire Franklin, who is a tackling monster and literally is like the point-scoring IDP player and the top tackler of the league. Like, he's up there. We all know this. So let's get to it. He had 158 points in this dynasty league. That was 24th overall in the linebacking core. That is an average of 10.53. Of course, in a 17-game, it would have been an 11.3. Now, the difference is that, of course, Franklin being number 1 with 208 points. So you could see that a super linebacker, a generational linebacker, can and will affect other players around him, like Roquan Smith. Except Roquan, he's always been able to do that. And that's just his knack. And that's what you see with Urlacher, et cetera, et cetera. Any great linebacker, LT. He had Carl Banks, right? But Carl Banks' numbers were nowhere near what LT's numbers were because LT was the dominant linebacker. And that's what you're always going to see. So, of course, right now, he's going to be starting on a strong side. He's going to back up Henry 202, who's a great young linebacker as well to himself. Deserves that spot. He's going to back him up on the weak side. Of course, we've got the madman in the middle, Aziz Al-Zahir, right? And we already know this guy's probably going to get suspended if he doesn't, plays a full season. But the thing is that Henry Tuatua and Shahir, they do not pose a threat to EJ Top's speed tackle total. So therefore, EJ is going to stay about the same in my predictions this year. So let's get to it. Under my scoring format and my module, I did everything he did: 142 total tackles, interception, 5 pass defended, 13.5 stuffs, adding up to a 163.5, a 10.9 average overall for 17 games. Of course, again, he only played 15. That's the thing. That's that 10.9 is that 15. That's the difference between the extra 2 games. Is that he's able to put that average into it. So when I do that and I do my predictions and I put him on this team and as the lead tackler, even though he's got CJ Gardner-Johnson knocking down the side corners and grabbing tackles himself, Jalen, my boy Petrie, rolling it up, doing his thing, that's going to be that. What this is, it's going to give a 185.3 points overall. Again, staying at the 10.9. He is safe. He is even. There's no movement. You have no problem having this gentleman on your team that ranks 16th overall, up from 24th overall if he plays 17 games, giving him the title of the next level. Exactly where I put EJ Speed. Yeah. All right, let's move along. I'll save the best for last, right? So we're doing safeties. Jeremy Chin, age 27, playing for the Raiders now. The Raiders defense stinks. There's no players on it other than Max Crosby. You look at all these guys on the Raiders starting defense right now, the depth chart, and you cringe. That's why they had to bring in somebody like Jeremy Chin. And Jeremy Chin, easily 127 points last year. That was 15th overall in the Dynasty League. That was 7.9 on average. His average was 22nd overall. So again, not bad. Did really well. Made a name. Get back to where, because he had that really explosive freshman and sophomore year in Carolina. And then for the past, he kind of just took some time off there a little bit. It just seemed like the injuries caught up with Chin. And then he had some really subpar, like literally cut in half, if not more, tackle years. And then he went to Washington and resurged. So he's going to play big this year. He plays 17 games. Chin is going to be big. And there were literally nobody going to be tackling on this team. So he's just going to have people running down the field all day, which will get to my predictions, and you'll see why. So, of course, 117 tackles, 2 sacks, 1 forced fumble, 2 fumble recoveries, interception, 5 pass defended, and 5 stuffs. Gives him a total of 145 points under my system, 8.5 overall. And that's just immediately moves him up into the tops. Now, going forward, this is what going to the Las Vegas Raiders does for a player like Jeremy Chin, who's on the back end and going to have people going overall. I predict that he's going to get 2 more interceptions this year, given his 3 interceptions totally. I also predict that he's going to have to be a lot more active into the rush game, so that's going to lead to a few more stuffs. We're going to give him 3 more stuffs, giving him 8 stuffs overall, but I can easily see him going double digits to almost 12 stuffs, which gives you more points. All right, let's move along. He's going to get, check this, Jeremy Chin is going to get 30 more tackles total this year. He is going to have 147 total tackles around, right? So that gives Jeremy Chin a possible projection under my scoring module of 184 points, which is a 10.2 average, which is an overall performance average going up from the 8.5 of 2.32 points, putting him anywhere between 4th and 5th ranked last year. And if he does that and able to do that, then Jeremy Chin will be a pain bringer by the end of the year. Yeah. All right. Save the best for last.
Oh yeah, what you got for me, Heat Override? You get the best, the cream always rises to the top. Oh yeah!
You knew Macho was coming at you, people, right? It's none other than Jared Verse. Yes, he's next level. I don't have him up there as a pain bringer like Aaron Donald, even though he practiced with Aaron Donald in the offseason. He learned his techniques. Aaron Donald is trying to work it. Look, the Rams have Kobe Turner returning. We got Braden Fisk, his boy. We brought in some backups, some great backups with Nate Landman. Now we have Punda Ford in the middle. Punda Ford is going to stop the run. That means that Jared Verse is only going to get better in the passing game, in the pass rush game. And I will explain that in a second. 114 points under this Dynasty rules, a 7.1 average. 17th, right? Boom. 66 total tackles, 4.5 sacks. Just felt like he had more than that. But he had a lot of pressures. If your league credits pressures, then that's it. I'm not using pressures because not all leagues do. This is supposed to be a normal, regular IDP format. 2 forced fumbles, 2 fumble recoveries, 2 pass defenses, 12 stuffs, 105.5 total overall points, 6.2 average. Just the way, for some reason with Verse in that league to what I actually grade, he just graded up higher. He's the only of the 3 that actually graded up higher. Anyway, we're going to fix that, right? So, Verse is going to get 15 more tackles. He's also going to get 8 more sacks, bringing his sack total to 12.5 overall and 3 more stuffs. This will put Jared Verse at 147.4 points, an average of 8.67, and that makes it a positive of 2.47. That's why I saved the best for last. Jared Verse will be a pain bringer going into next year if this happens, but the craziest thing is that those stats right there only put him at 13th when it comes to the defensive ends. So unfortunately, he would be on the outside of the pain bringers. That means if Jared Verse is going to become a pain bringer, we're going to need at least, on top of those 15 tackles, we're going to need 30 new tackles. We're going to need 4 more sacks. We're going to need a couple forced fumbles or fumble recoveries and everything else. I think that Poona Ford will be able to clog the middle, allow him to step back like TJ Watt and get a few more defenses that can bring that total up to maybe 160, and that would crack Jared Verse into the defensive line, top 10, making him a pain bringer. That is how we do IDP at Dr. Roto. Have a great day, everybody, and always remember to bring the pain. We'll see you Thursday for the Fight Club of Pain. Ooh, yeah!
Thanks for stopping by the office. Get your fantasy prescription by subscribing to the channel and checking out drroto.com. Until the next visit, be well and take care.